Good evening, guys. Sorabel here, and welcome back to my TCG update video on certain things that I wanted to talk about regarding like the actual trading card game format, not Master Duel. By the way, um, I hope you enjoy the intro that I created for the channel. As well as also going to be an outro that I really like. It's going to be the same music pieces that I normally use, just because I don't want to use too many different pieces of songs. Like I might like certain things, but it also becomes a lot harder, especially with copyright and things like that. But regardless of that, I do hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know how you feel about both of them in the comments below. But that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're kind of here to do a little like theory on how Black Metal Dragon and Kitchen really stack up against each other now. Um, with Red MD being unlimited, you could even make the argument now that a lot of people that don't really wouldn't really consider this, but it's possible to play, 3 copies of Red MD. Technically 6 with Black Metal Dragon, just because so the general like opinions that most players will give regarding playing Red MD is that he is a brick. But that's not really true. Red MD is what I would classify as a natural extender, in the same vein as something like Dragonmaid Hospitality. And depending on your starter, Dragonmaid Tidying is also a natural extender. In it, World Legacy Guard Dragon is another one. In it that as long as you open a starter and he is not occupying the space of a starter, this card can't brick you, because he will always be able to do something no matter what what starter you have: Chamber, Kitchen, Parlor, Nurse, Black Metal Dragon. So you can full wholeheartedly play 3 copies of this card. You don't have to play Black Metal Dragon if you prefer Kitchen. There's some benefits to doing that. There's some benefits to not doing that. But like, for example, in a 1-card scenario, Black Metal Dragon is just objectively better. There's no way to argue that Kitchen even competes with this card. However, because Red MD is at 3, you could just not play Black Metal Dragon or play a lower count and use Kitchen's play making potential for 2-card combos, right? Because Kitchen has better 2-card combos than Black Metal Dragon. Kitchen paired with Dragonmaid Hospitality is much better than Black Metal Dragon paired with any of the Dragonmaid cards, just because it forces you to go into Dragon Ravine, which forces you to have a discard in hand just so that you can get to Chamber and revive her, so that you have Seal and Tidying, right? Kitchen can do that in much less steps, and she also has more versatile plays. For example, Kitchen plus Hospitality, is you can use your battle phase, is you can dump Parlor, revive Parlor, dump Lorpar, and then you have 2 chances to make Dragonmaid show, depending on which Dragonmaid you use. So if your opponent gets rid of one of your little maids, the other one can tag in a Lorpar. Granted, they could still get rid of Lorpar herself. The fact still remains that that's more options than you'd get with Black Metal Dragon. So I really wanted to sit down and talk about this card in particular, because while it is better than Kitchen, I wholeheartedly agree with that. It is not like as simple as, oh, this card does better with a 1-card combo, so it's objectively better than this card that it has terrible 1-card combos but has better synergy with the archetype. Kitchen does synergize with the archetype incredibly well. If you paired Black Metal Dragon with, like, for example, Tidying, the only play you will ever get is CO plus Tidying. You can't get anything else, right? But if you paired Kitchen with Red MD, you could get a show play from that. You can pair Red MD with any of these Dragon Maids up here, and you can make Dragon Maid show relatively seamlessly with little difficulty, and follow up in the graveyard. So it begs the question, right? Is Black Metal Dragon's ability to push one card combos superior than Kitchen's natural synergy with her archetype? And I think the answer is dependent upon the format, right? Because one of the things that I loved about Black Metal Dragon in past formats, specifically when I was playing it alongside LP, is that it facilitated 2-card combos much better than Kitchen did, because the plays were linear, whereas now, while they're still linear, they're much more restrained. There are very little things you can do going first in this deck now without LP, besides make Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres and walk away. And in the TCG, that's fine, just because Called by the Grave is limited, and you know, there are not a lot of cards that can interact with Seal, whereas like in Master Duel, I really don't like making this card earlier on in the game, because you could lose if your opponent has 5 cards in hand and they're drawing their 6th card. That means they have 5 opportunities to have either the 3 of Ash Blossom or the 2 of Called by the Grave, and you lose to that so much. Like, that could blow you away. So I don't think, like, as much as I know the community for the Dragonmaid deck loves Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, and I love him too. He is our tertiary boss monster. He's what we go into to get our game stand started. He's amazing. He is a core part of the deck. I can't imagine Dragonmaid without him. But I think relying on him can lose you the game sometimes. Now, if you're playing a more combo-centric build, I would say Kitchen is far inferior than just playing Black Metal Dragon. For that reason. But in a more purish control build, I think an argument for both of them can be made, but it depends entirely upon how you handle Red MD. If you're comfortable playing 3 copies of Red MD, you probably don't need to play Black Metal Dragon, because you don't want to draw both of them, right? Let's just try and pull up a hand where this happens. Let's see. It's pretty rare, but it is something to consider. Right here, like this right here, this doesn't really do anything, you know what I mean? It's nice that you have the Red MD in hand, but it's a true brick with Black Metal Dragon. So I definitely don't think you should play 3 and 3. I do think you can do 2 and 3, or you can even do 3 and 2. It is completely fine, because again, this card stands alone by itself. It doesn't take the place of a starter. In Dragonmaid, typically speaking, the starters are 3 Chamber, 3 Parlor, 3 Pot of Prosperity, and either 3 Black Metal Dragon, 3 Kitchen. These 2 are your like alternative choices. You can also throw in 1-for-1 if you're comfortable. Excuse me. I personally don't believe in playing 1-for-1 at the moment, but I do think it's fine. You could definitely play it. It's just extra copies of Black Metal Dragon if you wanted to do that. The only problem I have with 1-for-1 is that it loses to Ash Blossom, and you have to discard a monster specifically for it. So if you have a hand of like Hand Trap, like Imperm, Droplet, Hospi, Chamber, and 1-for-1, using 1-for-1 there is just incredibly unnecessarily risky, because you're sending a starter for a starter just to revive a starter. Now, once you've taken cards out of your opponent's hand, 1-for-1 is a lot better. Or if you have protection against specific hand traps, 1-for-1 is also really good there too. But the fact still remains is this card is great, but this is the reason why. So you can play without it, right? And when we get into test hands here, right? Like, Red MD is an extender. That's the slot he takes up in this deck. He's not a starter. So him being comfortably like in this hand, assuming we draw a hand where we draw Red MD and we don't draw a starter, yes, we bricked, but playing 3 copies of Red MD, this didn't change that, right? Like I could still be playing 3 copies of Black Metal Dragon, right? My starter count doesn't change for this to happen. Red MD didn't brick me. if this makes sense. If this were World Legacy Guard Dragon, it would be the same thing. If it were Monster Reborn in Hospitality, it would be the same thing. So that's just kind of why I want to diffuse the like negativity regarding this card, because I see a lot of misguided players looking at Red MD like he's just another one of these two. He's just a big dragon and he breaks your hands. Like, no, he is a natural extender. If you have this card, you have the choice with either Parlor or Chamber to end on Seal and Tidying, or Dragonmaid Show turn 1 with guaranteed follow-up. And in some matches, Show is just better than Seal and Tidying, right? Because if you're playing against an Eldritch player and you make Seal and Tidying and your opponent sets 5 and passes, that's not good. Seal can't do anything with that unless you have something face up on the field. But if you have Dragonmaid Show, it gives you a better chance to interact with your opponent to prevent the set 5, because you can negate a Pot of Extravagance, or you can negate some a floodgate that they try and flip on your turn, or like you can negate a Scarlet Sanguine. There's just more playmaking potential that comes from having Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. And while I don't know if I think it's a 3 of just yet, I think it's the best out of archetype extender in the current format. I don't think there's anything that comes close to the utility that this card provides. World Legacy Guard Dragon being able to revive Pisty is nice, but unfortunately Pisty is just not strong enough in his plays unless you're going full combo. But that's mostly like what I wanted to talk about today, because Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon being at 3 is very huge for Dragonmaids, because this is something I've always been waiting for. It's a very huge buff for the deck, and I genuinely think, though this could change, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Red MD at 3. I think 2 in the TCG is mandatory. I think if you're not playing Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon in your Dragonmaid deck, you're missing out. It's such a good card. It's a nice burst option if you need a big body to run over something like a Winda. And there's a specific card that's currently in the format that makes me not like Black Metal Dragon. And it's called Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. This card right here, it causes problems for Black Metal Dragon specifically, because Black Metal Dragon, of your normal summons, of your 4 options, it is the most telegraphed. If you open Dragonmaid Chamber, you could search a Tidying, you could search a Hospitality. What you search will be completely dependent upon your hand. You could have extra normal summons that could allow you to extend out of it. So for example, if your opponent has a Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer and you normal summon Chamber, they can't just pop the Chamber with Enforcer. They have to allow you, you have to play the game. They have to see what resources you could commit to the board, just because your hand can be, Chamber crafts your hand, and your hand can be crafted around Chamber. That's the same thing with Parlor, because she has the ability to dump Tidying, right? Kitchen also has the benefit of this because she combos really well with all your not really Tidying so much, but definitely Hospitality. So if you were to use Kitchen and then you had Hospitality in hand, or World Legacy Guard Dragon, Monster Reborn, your opponent would have to think twice about popping your Kitchen. And while this may sound a little bit strange, because then what happens when you just summon Red MD over Kitchen and then she's, you're screwed, right? But the benefit of that is Kitchen can search Dragonmaid Lorepar. And Lorepar can force out negates, right? So Kitchen has that extra go second card utility that I think does come up. But mainly I just don't like that if I normal summon Black Metal Dragon and my opponent has a Phoenix Enforcer, it is 100% correct for them to just pop the Black Metal Dragon, even if I get the Red MD search, right? Because then I'm going to need either exactly Monster Reborn, exactly World Legacy Guard Dragon, or a Dragonmaid Revivals, Tidying, or Ernest, and a second Dragonmaid starter in my hand to play out of that, and it's just not good enough in my opinion. Because the card is just all over the format, and there are other cards like that too, that you have to be careful about. The Sword Soul Blackout card. If your opponent pops Black Metal Dragon, and like, well, to be fair, you have to control 2 cards, so that's probably not the best example to use in this analogy. But assuming you have another card on the field for X reason, spot removal on Black Metal Dragon is a lot stronger than it is on the actual Dragonmaids, because they pull resources from your deck before they're sent to the graveyard, if that makes sense. But again, this is all just like early format pre-theory. Perhaps none of this really matters. It is very likely that Black Metal Dragon has reached a point where it is just, I mean, I can't argue it, right? I think it's empirically better than Kitchen. I don't think she compares in any meaningful way to the card in this format, just because it's nice to have, like, it's still an extender and a starter, if that makes sense, right? It does both. And like playing 3 instead of playing Kitchen, this looks like it's bad, but it's not, just because if you open Black Metal Dragon with another maid, this is still Red MD, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just so good. And I may sound like I'm flip-flopping on it, but that's just because Red MD is such a good card, but Black Metal Dragon is a bit more middling. That's the best way I could say it. Like, Red MD is the better card, but Black Metal Dragon, it's extra copies of him. But anyways, that's probably going to be it. That's mostly what I wanted to talk about. I don't really have any gameplay to show off. There are no combos. It's just unfortunate. That's the way it is right now with Dragonmaid. Like, without LP, combos just don't really work anymore. It's more about like a control. It's a control deck more so than it was a combo deck. It's a mid-range control deck now. So it's all about having extensions so that you can play out of cards, but it's also important to have, variety and options. So I'm not sure what the last 3 spots I'm going to place in my list. I have locals later today. By the time any of you see this, I'll be busy doing that. But that's going to be pretty much it for me. Again, let me know how you guys feel about the intro and how you feel about the outro. And that's it. Sorabel out. You all have a good one. Take care.